Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast with your hosts, Jason Balin and Ian Horowitz.
What's up, Ian?
What's up, man? It's Friday. It's raining. It's Memorial Day weekend. I guess Bill Gates is controlling the weather, wants to keep us inside. I'm not going to go down a conspiracy route, but that's what's going on. What's up, man?
Nothing. Every day is similar to me. It's, I didn't even realize it was Friday. Every day is kind of the same. One thing we do. What's that?
Yeah. I was going to say, does it feel like Groundhog's Day to you, though? Is it like every day is the same, like monotonous, or like every day is the same and I love being home and, grinding away and not having to go to the office every day?
I love grinding away. I'm fortunate that I have a business model that I enjoy and like, and I talk to a lot of people every day. Especially over the phone, a lot of new real estate investors, a lot of existing real estate investors. So it's all good and I enjoy it. So today is Friday, May 22nd. If you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers, and this is Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. We started this podcast about 60 days ago, and we've been going live pretty regularly with the most up-to-date real estate oriented content. We invite other real estate investors, experts onto the show. Today, in a few minutes, we are going to introduce Martin Saenz, and we're going to talk about note investing. And even though I've been in the private lending space with our company for 13 years and have been involved in it actually before that, I don't know much about note investing besides just being the originator on the note. So I've got something to learn as well, and he's got a lot of good tidbits to share. So what else we got today, Ian? Anything?
I think between what he's going to share and the case study that he's going to share, we're going to run pretty long here. But if we don't, I think there's some amendments coming to the PPP stuff. So if we can get to that, we'll talk about that. We're gearing up towards June 1st, June 8th. The court's open here in Maryland. So maybe we'll get to some of that stuff and see what people are talking about and go from there. So I was fortunate enough to meet Martin, I guess it must have been 2013 or 14 at a local real estate event. I hope they all come back because that's where I do meet a lot of people. I was lucky enough to meet him, and then we coincidentally met again at another note investing event. It was right when I was getting involved in real estate, was trying to learn and see what's going on out in the world. And fortunate enough to stay in contact with him and watch his business blossom. And I think the best thing to do is bring Martin in.
Sure. Hey, Martin, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Welcome,
man.
welcome.
Thank you for having me
on. Absolutely. So first, why don't you just give everybody a quick background of who Martin is, a little bit about yourself, and then if you want, maybe just jump right into what is note investing, and that's kind of a good logical first question to answer.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, you're the oddball here, right? We all invest in real estate, and you invest in real estate, but not real estate. So
actually, I have a portfolio of buy and hold residential and commercial properties in the DC area too. But my thing is note investing. So but anyway. So my wife and I started a government contracting company in 2004 after I got fired from a corporate job for not playing politics well. And my wife and I decided at that time that, corporate America, working a job, having a single stream of income was not going to cut it for us. So, we went our own route. And we kind of spent about a year in the forest, so to speak, put together a government contracting company that sold museum exhibits and signage to the federal government. So we did that out of our basement of our home for a few years and hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And from that, we managed to build that up to a multi-million-dollar company. And with the proceeds, we purchased our first building in Woodbridge, Virginia, whereby we operated our company out of. So,
nice.
From that point, we bought, various commercial properties and residential properties and ended up selling our company in 2013. So from that point, I really just had a lot of time to figure out what I wanted to do from that perspective. So what I realized, though, is that I did not receive financial freedom from small business ownership because I was stuck to the grind. I was working, 90-hour work weeks. I was stressed out, as all can be. And what I realized from landlording is that it didn't produce enough positive cash flow to meet my financial aspirations in life. So from that point, I said, well, let me venture off. I ran into note investing. And so that's where I've been ever since. Now, what is note investing? Well, note investing can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. But from my perspective, I'm going to discuss note investing in the secondary market space. So these are loans that are already originated. They're originated through financial institutions with Fannie and Freddie underwriting guidelines being met. And at some point, these mortgages became in default. So the borrower stopped paying. So they're what we call distressed mortgage notes, whereby the borrower is beyond 90 days past due. So what banks and other lending institutions do is they bundle these up in pools and they sell them off in the secondary space to various hedge funds and other capital investment firms. So what my company does is we have key strategic relationships with some of the larger hedge funds, and we became a large buyer of junior lien distress notes across the country. So that's kind of how I built my business model. I actually, it's the same way Jason was curious about the working out of note investing on the secondary side. I'm always curious about the originating side because I don't know much about the originating side. What I do know is I know how to properly source and vet a note whereby the borrower has not made a payment in years. And I know how to understand the value of that property and the borrower and their ability to pay me now. And so from that, I purchased those notes at deep discounts. And then with the single mission of working with the homeowner to help them keep in their home with a payment plan they can afford. So I have a very low foreclosure rate on the mortgage notes I buy. 95% of them end up with some type of payment plan or payoff with the borrower. And so over the years, I have obtained, I have worked out hundreds of these loans. I have purchased over 1,000 of these notes, and I've built a business whereby I'm accumulating additional streams of income, through mortgage notes.
Yeah, no, that it's absolutely awesome. And it was funny when we jumped on here, and I want to recap what you said, but the difference between what I do and what Martin does is I rehab houses and I manage tenants. Martin rehabs loans that were already issued by somebody like Jason and works with borrowers, right? So that's the inherent difference. But I want to recap what you said. I just want to make sure everyone understands. When you're talking about junior liens, you're talking about second position notes, i.e. HELOCs or people that took out second mortgages for whatever reason. Number two, if you could comment, just so people really understand the difference in what you're paying, because on day one, Jason's issuing a note dollar for dollar. When you're buying them in junior position, you're buying them for pennies on the dollar. So if someone had a $100,000 loan, on average, what are you paying? 25 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar? Where are you at?
Yeah, actually, that's a good range, Ian. So on the low end, on the low end, I could be at 17 cents. On the high end, I could be at 52 cents on the dollar. So, a lot of people kind of emphasize what's the cents on the dollar, but how when you kind of get going on these loans, you're really focused on what's the potential return from this investment. That what's the cash on cash projection? What's the IRR? And you're not as focused on You're not as focused on cents on the dollar. And it's interesting. I know when I say junior liens and you clarify that second, third mortgage liens, for someone like Jason, your world, Jason's probably like, I have to be in first lien position. I need the security. I need low LTV. I need lots and lots of coverage in case of foreclosure. But where I'm buying, I'm staying away from first liens because in the secondary market, not on the origination side, but in the secondary market, senior liens, i.e. first mortgages, they usually are tied to low fair market value properties. So the junior liens I buy are in properties of 150K on up to several million.
Right, and sometimes those houses could be underwater, but you find ways to get them out. But right, you're not always looking for equity, whereas Jason needs equity on day one.
Mm-hmm.
In some of these cases, you might say, I don't care that the property is fully leveraged on the first position. I still know for whatever reason in second position, this person has a connection to this property for whatever it may be. They've been there for 7 years. They've done this or they've done that, and you find those things and makes it more comfortable for you to buy those second positions. Correct?
Actually, no. Equity coverage is a big part of it on the junior lien side too.
Okay.
I stay away from underwater properties where there's no cumulative loan to value. That's the senior lien balance along with your balance against the property value. So I look for full equity coverage. So if the property's worth 150K and the senior's at 100K and I'm at 50K, then I'm at 100% cumulative loan to value, and I'm technically fully covered on that loan. So that's exactly what I look for, because that gives me protection against certain bankruptcy filings. But it also gives me some leverage when I'm in negotiations with the borrower.
All right, so I've got obviously a few questions, and primarily I'm assuming these are homeowners. These are homeowners first?
Yes,
okay.
They're residential, correct.
Okay, so they're residential homeowners. And we'll talk about it in a second. I see some questions popping up of like, how do you find these deals and things like that? And we'll get to that in a second. But just so everyone understands the structure, because I actually don't fully understand the structure yet. So let's say a property's worth $200,000. They have a first mortgage of whatever, $100,000 on the property, and they have some sort of junior lien, second, third, whatever, HELOC. Say it's $50,000, right? $50,000. They're not paying. It's not performing. You come in, buy it at anywhere between 17 and 51 cents on the dollar. So you have a $50,000 note. You're potentially buying it for $25,000. Now the beauty of it is you're able to collect up to $50,000. So you have a $25,000 spread on that, and I'm sure you have some sort of calculation related to what your interest rate return is on things like that. But I'm guessing that's kind of the structure, right? You're analyzing those and you're creating margin and spread for you because you're able to buy it lower than the amount that's owed.
That's correct. And actually, there's such a thing as legal balance. So if they haven't paid in 3 years, there's a per diem clock. So there's past due interest arrears that accumulate on a daily basis. So if you have a $50,000 note, and they haven't paid in 3-4 years, you could have $20,000 owed on the back end on top of the principal balance. Now, I'm not suggesting that and this is where you can get really creative with note investing. And this is the part of the business I love, is that I can actually use that money that's legally owed by the borrower. I can use that to help them. So in other words, I can say, hey, look, if you can pay me a down payment of $5,000, then, I'll waive $5,000 of what's owed on the back end, and I'll defer the balance. I'll defer the difference rather, and then I'll do a loan modification for the $50,000 owed. So imagine if you, buy a note with a $50,000 principal balance, you buy it for $25,000. And then you get a $5,000 down payment, then you really are out $20,000 for that investment. And now you have a $50,000 paying mortgage over the stretch of 20, 30 years. Plus you have a deferred, kicker of 10% that's due upon $10K that's due upon payoff.
Cool. We'll keep talking about collateral for a few more seconds, and then we can jump into probably a little bit more what people think is more sexy stuff. I analyze risk every day when I look at deals. So I'm curious on some of these questions. So, okay. So in essence, let's go based on that, the formula I said earlier. So $200,000 asset, they have a first for 100. I'm assuming the first is in good standing before you want to come in, because if they're not, obviously you can jeopardize. Okay. Jeopardize foreclosure.
If they're not paying their first, they're not paying you.
Exactly. So I get the model of cool, and I don't know if this is the right way to look at it LTV wise or CLTV wise, but is that safe that you're trying to be at like a 75% CLTV, or you're comfortable going higher, 100% CLTV?
Yeah. So what's interesting is, and this is the difference between having a real estate hat on and having a note investing hat on, is so much in the real estate community is it's tied to the fair market value, right? Fair market value condition of property. And that's what's like pounded in the head, because that's your collateral. That's what makes it safe and secure for you to do the transaction. So much on my side, I want to get a strong grasp on fair market value. I also want to understand lien validity and back taxes, and I want to understand any encumbrances on that property. So I do want to understand the property from that perspective. But at the end of the day, I want to understand the borrower and their ability to pay me. So in other words, I want to know that they're paying their first, they're paying their taxes, and I want to look at their credit. I'm going to, there's skip tracing tools that are available to me. So I'm placing a heavy emphasis on the borrower and the ability to pay, more than getting maximum equity coverage on that opportunity. Because in 90% plus cases, I'm not taking back the property. I'm exiting with a loan modification in place.
A loan modification on what side? So you're doing the loan modification on the second, right? Because someone's selling you a non-performing note or whatever the note. They're selling you the note at, we'll just use 50% because that's easy to calculate. So they're selling you a $50,000 note at $25,000, and I'm assuming you're doing a workout and talking to them, to the client, and being like, hey, listen, I'm guessing you couldn't pay because your payment was $500 a month. How about we lower the payment, to $400 a month or whatever? Can you make that work? And you're getting creative I'm guessing, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. You're getting creative and doing a workout on a one-off situation per person to determine what works. What does happen though, I guess, if you have a higher leverage property and then they stop paying and they got to go, and the first mortgage has to go and foreclose? I mean, is it worth you even protecting your interest on it? Now, obviously, if the property gets bid up for higher than the first mortgage owed, you'll get the difference in money up to what you're owed. But and I'm coming from the collateral world, so it's tough. And I understand the affordability and the payment, and we obviously lend to borrowers with good characteristics that have the ability to cover their payments. But still, at the end of the day, my backstop is I'm in these things at 40% plus equity cushion. So if they decide not to, I have a backstop. Like, want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd say the best backstop you can have with note investing is that you're buying at such a deep discount to begin with. So you're kind of starting out of the gate. The other backstop is, and this is probably similar in your world too, is just how much emphasis you place on the underwriting process, all the due diligence that you do beforehand. So that also, mitigates risk as well. But at the end of the day, you're buying a note whereby you're not able to inspect the property. So you're going to have to make some assumptions. But if they're paying their first, in a majority of the cases, they will pay you if you're able to be creative and really work with them with a payment plan they can afford. So where a lot of people get in trouble with notes is either you do not come to a good agreement with the borrower in terms of a payment plan, or you have a payment plan that is more than they can handle on a monthly basis. Now, they may take it to avoid foreclosure, but it's not going to be sustainable over the long run. So the best thing you can do to really mitigate risk is two things: build a relationship with a borrower. I treat them like customers because at the end of the day, they're putting money in your pocket. So they are a customer. So have incredible customer service, build very good relationships with them. So if they get into a jam, they will call you. And if they say, hey, look, I can afford to pay you, but my, arm just adjusted on my first or something happened, then I might say, well, call them and see if you can get a hardship modification with your first. So you start building these relationships and this dialogue with the borrower. That's the best thing you can do, as well as give them a payment plan that works with their disposable income.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Real quick before we go on to how to find deals, what happens in the position? They're paying. What was that?
That's always the question. Where are the deals?
All right, let's find out. Let's find out how to find deals.
Let's post this question up as well.
Yeah, ask this question.
Let me read this question off. Go ahead, Ian.
How would you find notes to buy from a bank, a hedge fund? How would you approach them? How much money would you need? Plus, does my company need a note attorney? Thank you. I'm going to butcher your name, but I'm going to go with Aditya Chalag. Screw it. Sorry, buddy. But there you go. Either way, my man.
He looks cool.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Listen, it's I'll tell you this, it's a lot less money than you think, and it's a lot more hustle than you think. So I'll kind of leave it at that. In that people come into this industry just same as real estate investing, private money lending, the whole thing. They come into the space. 100 people come in every year, 95 exit. Right? Exit with less money than they had coming into the industry. It's no different than note investing. And one thing that many people overlook is the building of an identity. So, what your brand is, your ability to learn the fundamentals, be a student of the industry, because there's so many nuances with note investing. It's not just like, oh, let me go buy something at $50K for $25K and let's see how it all works out. No. You have to learn how to properly vet the note. You have to learn about lien validity. You have to learn about reading, county record searches, reading credit reports, skip tracing. You have to go do bankruptcy pacer searches. I mean, there's so much involved from a due diligence standpoint. So be a student of the industry. And build an identity whereby you have a certain set of parameters. These notes, there's different sectors with different silos within the note industry. So you have to pick where you're going to focus on and really be a student of not just the industry, but you also need to understand who the players are in the community. Now, where do you find deal flow? The answer is very simple. It's LinkedIn. You don't need to go beyond LinkedIn to find all the notes you could ever want in your life. But I'll say this, that the people that have notes, the notes at the wholesale level that you want to seek, those people expect you to have your game tight, because you'll burn the bridges pretty quick. It's not like real estate investing in that you could be a rehabber and go and be in Seattle and do a bunch of crappy, shady things and burn bridges and then move to Philly and then do the same thing because nobody knows you in Philly. It's not like that at all. Note investing's on a nationwide level with nationwide access. There's no little hubs. So when you start burning those bridges, it burns pretty quickly. So get your game tight from an identity perspective, learn the fundamentals, and get on LinkedIn. There's really not much more to say. Otherwise, you can go on online exchanges and buy retail all day long, but you're not going to build a thriving business from that.
Right. Yeah, and you can pick up the phone and pound the phone with the banks and do all that kind of stuff. But I think your approach makes a lot more sense to create that identity. And that's the same whether you're doing notes or you're doing real estate, you're doing flips, you're doing hard money lending, whatever it may be, that's your character. That's who you're putting out there. And that makes a lot of sense. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, it's what your brand is and how you're going to move forward and what, how people take you and trust you instantly and willing to work with you. I see Joe Greeley. He was a note investor there for a while. He says push legal. And I think what he's getting at, and if you want to comment, what's your number one leverage piece that's probably make Jason more comfortable in buying notes? I think that at one point there was a big thing about going out there and sending out these care packages and all this other stuff and trying to get the borrower to call you, Just like I try to get a tenant to call me to pay rent, but in the end, I just file an eviction and then everybody shows up. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah. So I do very little borrower outreach. I do, I push legal from day one. It's really your only leverage. So, but I will say this, that, you're pushing legal. You're also setting these loans up with servicing. You have a loan servicer that sends out monthly correspondence and year-end tax forms and whatnot. So you have that form of communication along with legal notices, along the way of the foreclosure process. However, at the end of the day, the most effective thing you can do is when the borrower does call in, because they're going to come to you when they're ready. That's the bottom line. You cannot force the hand of someone. To have it done organically is the best way for any business transaction to happen. So they come to you. You need to treat them like gold. I mean, you need to put your customer service hat on, really start building the relationship with them. And you want to be someone that they think about on a monthly basis. And then also there's a lot of tricks of the trade. When we're doing modification arrangements and everything, we set them up on ACH payments so they don't have to think about the money coming out. There's just a lot of other kind of steps that you can take. It makes it a good customer service gesture, but just further locks them in to paying you on a consistent basis.
And for somebody at your size with the amount of notes that you got going on and, the launch of your fund, are you running customer service internally, or do you have a call center that's handling this? I understand, for those that don't know, servicers are, just because your loans with Citizens Bank does not mean it's being serviced by them. I get a letter from somebody else with Citizens Bank name on it. But what are you doing for customer service in the way of, people calling in availability?
So just to give you kind of an idea of my company size, in the last 12 months, we've purchased $40 million of mortgage loan debt. So to give you an idea, we have a full-time team of asset managers that field phone calls and do borrower workouts, as well as borrowers have the ability to call into the loan servicer.
Gotcha. Question. So I know that, I'm assuming, I'm not 100% because I don't play in the consumer world. I play in the commercial business use world for investors. I'm guessing the original originator of the note had to have some sort of license to originate the note. I'm guessing there's probably no license to have related to purchasing of a note. And I guess since you guys are servicing it, but I do know that some states require a license to service loans, not just on consumer, but also on business use commercial notes. Do you not? I'm guessing you probably are exempt for most of that stuff because you're just the buyer, the investor of the note, and not the originator of the note and not the servicer of the note.
The answer to that is a yes and no. So you bring up a great point. So we buy paper from major lending institutions. So Deutsche Bank, PNC, Wells Fargo, they have, we buy from all the major lenders. And with that said, so it was originally underwritten with Fannie and Freddie underwriting guidelines. So this is not seller financed, contract for deed kind of paper.
Yep.
So when we take it over, in certain states, there's certain servicing license requirements that is no problem because the servicer we use is licensed in all the states. So they pick up on that. However, in certain states, you need a lender's license. In certain states, you need a third-party debt collections license, even though you're technically a first-party debt collector. So there's different nuances in different states. And that goes back to what I was saying, like you need to be a student in the industry because you don't want to buy a note in a state where you don't have a license in to proceed with foreclosure. Then you could get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm sure like the Californias of the world are stronger than that. But like you're right, because
actually, Jason, California is one of the best states to buy a note in. There's no
really?
there's no lender's licensing.
How's that possible? I know it's not. I know it's non-judicial, but in general, you to originate a loan, you need an originator's license to be a lender. You need a lender's license to be a servicer. You need a service license, and you need a commercial broker side. But I'm familiar with because we lend in 6 states locally, that some of them require servicing licenses, or the originator, but potentially could be exempt on some of that stuff. It gets funky, but okay, no, that's good to know. And do you where's the scalability of this business? Like, it seems like there's a big human element. Like, for instance, in our business, we lend about $35 million a year, and that's kind of that the reason we do that is not because capital restraints. We typically always have more capital than we have deals, but that's just kind of supply and based on the deals that we have access to, the right deals, the good deals we want to get our hands on, and based on our staff. In general, as you scale a business, lots of businesses can do twice as much volume and make twice as much top line revenue, but when it comes down to net revenue, it's not much more, and you're taking on a heck of a lot more risk. So over the years, we've learned inside our business where the numbers work. I could do more volume, but if I do more volume, that's not necessarily going to make me much more income. I'm going to have to hire more staff. I'm going to have to potentially get higher license fees for softwares, potentially retain more legal counsels, things like that. So is the number you're at now kind of the comfort level, or can this be scaled? And on the other side, can this be a part-time gig that one individual can do, where they do all the heavy lifting, they scour for the deals themselves?
So, two answers. So there is scalability. In March, right before the country shut down on March 13th of this year, my partner and I launched an income fund. So a 506c income fund called Bequest Funds, and it's for accredited investors. So it's a $50 million fund. And so the question in note investing side, when you scale to a certain level, you don't think so much in terms of acquisition as you do in terms of maintenance and maintaining the loan modifications. So in other words, there's one side where you're acquiring this distressed debt and you are converting it from a distressed state to a profitable state, and you're creating long-term streams of income. But then the second question is, how do you maintain those streams of income? So we're raising capital in the income fund and buying those performing assets that are seasoned, that we worked out in various other entities, into that income fund, so we can have longevity within the space. So, and again, that's a whole other element. The whole portfolio management piece is a whole other element. So that we're building out. Now, in terms of someone just starting, in terms of someone, is there room for people? There's really two types of note investors out there. People that are just starting and kind of, forming their fundamentals, and they're buying on retail levels. And then there's people that are buying upstream with, mid-level play on up. So I'd say that based on how much you become a student of the industry will determine how you can move upstream. It's not as much like private money lending, where you can kind of build you can build a tribe within a certain city and get to know all the rehabbers and have recurring business. The note industry is very much different. It deals with technical skill on a nationwide level. And the more you become a student, the more you kind of move upstream for larger deal flow. So it's based on merit. It's merit based. It's based on you. Now, can you have a full-time job and be a note investor? Absolutely. It's about commitment, not about time at the end of the day.
That's 100% true. And that's for any asset class that you're involved in. There's plenty of people, by technicality, I guess you could call me a part-time investor because I have a full-time job, right? And I 100% agree with that. It comes down to commitment, and most people don't want to put the time, energy, and effort in. And I think you talked pretty well about the capital. I think there are very, very limited spots you can get some leverage against notes if you have availability. But if you don't mind, and I don't know if you do it, but I know a common way to recapitalize your business is potentially selling partials. Do you want to explain how that works? Because in the end, if you only have 20 grand and you can do, you can buy 2 notes and then you get those 2 worked out, you're getting your monthly payments back. How can you recapitalize and go again?
Yeah. So I'm not I'm not a huge fan of that approach in note investing. Whereas, like, if you have, I believe you can be a successful note investor over the course of years with as little as $50,000. I've seen it happen. I know I've mentored some individuals that have done that. Now, with that said, if you have limited capital, that might actually help you, because then you need more hustle, right? You have like no other choice but to hustle. So with that said, if you have limited capital, you should use that to focus on building your identity and focus on research of players in the industry, focus on attending conferences and self-educating as much as possible, and then creating an outreach program where you are connecting individuals and deal flow in the space in a very professional manner, not broker joker manner, but a very professional manner, whereby if you start making connections and you land a 50 note deal, then you go and you go give me a call, and I'll take down 45 notes, and then you take down 5 notes. So then you can get wholesale pricing for $20K versus going out and buying a retail asset for $20K. So, right. But you can also take the other approach of buying a few notes, modifying them, and then selling off part of that income stream off to other, cash flow buying investors, or you can sell the whole note once it hits 6 months of seasoning.
Nice. Nice. One more question, and then we're going to dive into some Grant Cardone stuff that you were telling us about earlier. Most of these notes, so these secondary notes are some sort of conforming, or Fannie or Freddie backed originally the second, right? So, well, this is a 2-part question. The first part is going to be, do you ever dabble into stuff that's not in that space? Stuff that's not, a conforming second. And then the next question is, does this typically work kind of in I'm assuming most of these deals are probably between the 70 and 100% CLTV range, or could these deals potentially be a lot lower, where, for instance, someone has a $100,000 first, a $40,000 second, and they have a $400,000 house, and they just can't afford to pay the second? Like, do those happen, or does the second mortgage holder look at it as like, we don't have a lot to, we want to get this thing performing, but at the same time, like, we're not going to take a huge discount because we're in a really good collateral position? Or did they not care about the collateral? They just care about the performance. Or do they just try to foreclose on it as the second? Or, to me, it seems like the reason you're able to get bigger discounts, and again, I come from the collateral world, so risk world. So, it's hard for me to come in to talk about this, but like, does that happen, or is it on the higher CLTV range deals that happens?
Yeah. So I'll kind of touch on the second, your second thought on that. We very much, we very much, okay. So I'm going to speak in general versus what my philosophy is. So in general, you can, with note investing, you can exit through the property, via foreclosure, deed in lieu, all those exits, or you can exit through the borrower. You get a payoff, or you get a loan modification. So really, those are the only 2 things. So
explain what loan modification means in your terms for this particular deal.
Yeah. So you have a $40,000 second, and they haven't paid in 4 years. So there's, $20,000 or $15,000 of past due interest arrears on top of the $40,000. There's full equity coverage, so backing my position. So I go to the bar and I talk to them. They say, okay, well, I couldn't make payments 4 years ago because I was going through a divorce, but now I'm resituated. I got I got a better job. My situation's better. So I'm gonna be able to pay you $5,000 down as a down payment, and then I'm going to defer $15,000, put it on the back of the loan to balloon upon payoff. And then I'm going to give them a new loan, or I'm going to give them a modification to the existing terms of the loan for the $40,000 principal balance over the course of, let's say, 20 years at the same interest rate they were currently due for. And then I'll start collecting monthly payments for the next 20 years. So that's a loan
Got it.
modification.
Okay. So you do a loan modification internally.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, that's what I was confused about, is who does the loan modification, but you're doing that internally. Okay, fair enough.
Yep. So to answer, so to kind of further on your question, if you think about it this way, you know, if you think about it from the perspective of exiting through the property, which is not my philosophy. So I have a pool of first mortgage non-performing notes right now that the UPB, the unpaid principal balance, is about 1.2 million. I'm selling those I sell off first mortgages the second I get them. So sometimes you have to buy blended opportunities. So you have to buy first and second mortgages when you do a takedown. It's an all or nothing kind of thing. So I sell those first off because they tend to be lower fair market value properties. And in lower fair market value properties, there's an increased likelihood you will have to exit through the property. And I never want to exit through the property. So my whole risk analysis model is telling me, will I exit through the borrower? That's what I want to know first and foremost. So I think that's kind of, I kind of lost track of the first question. Sorry.
Are they just conforming notes?
Oh,
like Fannie Freddie Mac?
Yeah, because I actually don't know. I can't speak to contract for deeds. I don't know the industry. I understand there are a lot of lower dollar properties on the residential side. I know you deal with commercial side, but yeah, so it's kind of a different, again, different silos, right? Some people only want to buy senior lien loans, and I just don't want to be a long distance landlord, and that's what essentially you're going to be.
And so everybody knows there's and tell me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but when you're buying a first mortgage versus a second mortgage, you buy that first mortgage, now you're worrying about city trash fines, environmental, taxes, water bills, and all these other things that you can be foreclosed on and shipped out of the tax sale. Yes, in the second position, that's a possibility, but most of the time, the first mortgage is protecting themselves anyway, which ultimately protects you in second position.
Yeah, they're a punching bag. That's how we view first mortgages. They're a punching bag for all the expenses that go on, all the encumbrances. I bought a loan in one of my first 10 loans. I bought 10 senior lien loans out of the gate in 2013 for $240K, all in Ohio. One of them was in the lovely town of Shaker Heights, which is in Cuyahoga County. And the property was vacant, and they were the city was cutting my lawn for $250 a cut, and for like 6 months. I had no idea.
That's a good deal.
And then I go and take the property back, deed in lieu. There's about $16,000 in back taxes, because in poor areas, they charge more taxes for their residents. It's kind of crazy that way. But if you go to PA and Ohio, you'll see that all day long. They overtax their residents. So $16,000 in back taxes. And I go and I obtain the property. I do clean out, fix the windows, mow the lawn, and I put it up for sale, because I never do rehab on the property. That's just a rule of thumb. That's a business practice of mine. And so I resell it. And then upon resale, the city has a requirement where they go into my house and do an inspection and make me fix a whole list of items before I can sell it at my own expense. So I had to go. So it was like, I just got totally hosed on the deal. And that was really my first lesson about the difference between senior loans and junior lien loans.
That's a very important lesson there. Yeah, man. Jay, any more questions about those before we get to the good stuff? I think Jason's intrigued. You got his brain working out.
My model's opposite. So it's fine. Yeah. I'm doing first loans on investment residential and commercial properties, but again, and I've had to step in and pay taxes and insurance and stuff, and it takes my exposure from a 60 LTV potentially to a 70 LTV, and then higher with legal fees and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I guess at the end of the day, if your loan stops performing, the first mortgage is in foreclosure, like, you're pretty much screwed, I'm guessing, right? Like, collateral wise, and that's
unless there's equity coverage covering both. So
unless there's equity coverage.
Yeah, the seniors foreclosed and I got a big check. That's happening.
Exactly. So I guess in a perfect world, hey, we can accomplish everything we're accomplishing, and we still have a backstop of having good collateral, knowing that if it goes to foreclosure, we'll still get.
And to be fair, though, I mean, the price is associated with the risk, right? You know, you're paying 25 cents. You know, I've heard low as 10 cents on the dollar for some of this stuff that's completely underwater. You know, it's a scaling price. You know, the more risk, or the less risk you want to take, the more you're going to pay. So go in first position, go pay 70 cents on the dollar. You know, go deal with all the headaches, or take a little bit of risk, pay a lot less money, and hopefully have a lot more reward.
And that's where the sophistication comes in, Ian, because you have a senior lien in front of you. There's less control over that asset and the performance. So you have to be very sophisticated with due diligence, or you're going to get burnt.
100%. 100%. So obviously you've been grinding out. You do a lot of notes. I know you've written a few books. We'll get to that in a second. But I thought it was real interesting, and you sparked my interest. That's when I reached out to you. Is you have a pretty big interview coming up? You want to talk about who you're interviewing and how that whole thing came about?
Yeah, I got Uncle G is coming to my Facebook group, Note Investing Made Easier, and it's interesting because I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki, Jim Rohn, all these great motivational figures, and so. Part of what my mindset is to always be out there, always be, focused on outreach, focused on connectivity, and kind of growing my name, growing my brand and identity. So I reached out to the folks at Cardone, Grant Cardone's company, and I got the ear of Grant to come on my podcast. He rejected me at first. My audience wasn't big enough, but then I let him know that there's only 2,700 members, but they're high net worth, a lot of high net worth individuals. So from that, he I guess decided to come on. But yeah, he's coming on June 21st on my Facebook group, Note Investing Made Easier, and I couldn't be happier. Great honor.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. We follow a lot of Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels, and they talk about doing the Dream 100. Pick your 100 most influential people, or that can be influential to your business, and reach out to them. And how can you work with them? And the fact that you took the time and effort to do it, I think, is absolutely amazing. So it is possible. See, people, you can interview anybody you want.
Yeah, Ian, get it.
Yeah,
Your program next.
Yeah, I still see Jason's brain working over here. I think he's still trying to process how second mortgages work.
Jason, for the record, I don't want you coming on my side of the fence. For the record, I'm not trying to create competition.
If I go in on stuff, I go all in on things. And I mean, listen, we've looked at purchase notes in the past, a little bit different than this. Obviously, first mortgage notes from other hard money lenders and things like that, but they didn't kind of work out. But let's go through a few of these questions, because I know you want to talk about a few of the books that you've written as well, and that's fine. So Pete Belden wrote, "Great content, guys. What is a good book, website, Insta, YouTube content to learn about some basic fundamentals of note investing?" So if you want to share some of that stuff, that'd be great.
Yeah. You can go to noteinvestingmadeeasier.com, or you can also go to the Facebook group. It's a free Facebook group. It's a private group, so you have I want to know who's coming in. So I'm not trying to load it up with borrowers coming onto the Facebook group. So you just look up Note Investing Made Easier, the group, and there's tons of good videos on there. Ian, I think you're in the group, right?
I am. I shared this here, and just so you know, there are people.
Good. Did you
comment on questions?
You can. Yeah. Okay. I was going to share this into my group after we're done, but did you do it already, or is
it? We're live streaming in there. You have a few questions to answer up over there. They're not popularity. So
yeah, I love my community. I love the people in my group, and I view it as like anything else. I'm just someone on the outside. There's no one in the center of this group. There's no egos. I'm learning. I'm growing like everyone else. I stay humble, and there's folks in the group that are tearing it up, and they're doing things that are so creative and wonderful, and I'm always learning. So that's the best thing that I've done, is to really be a part of this community. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a network goes a very long way. And, it's the same reason we do these is, we wouldn't hear this content from you, or, if our community, we always, as a backstop to say, hey, I got this problem, or, hey, someone else is asking for something, and you get to trade information, and it's the best way to learn. So hopefully the social distancing crap's over and we can start going to conferences and events again.
Absolutely. However, this is the best time in our lifetime for outreach. Everybody's home. I mean, you could probably get the CEO of Citigroup on the phone right now. I mean, everybody is at home. There's never been a better time to go and catch people before they get back to the offices and start snubbing you. So, so now with that said, I would just say, you're either a magnet where you're attracting that deal flow, you're attracting that attention, or someone else is attracting you into their sphere. So, building a community, being a part of that community, and cultivating it is the best way for you to have that magnetic effect where you're pulling in opportunities. You're pulling in the right types of people to be in your circle.
What's your take on where the note investing industry goes over the next few years with potential unemployment, hardships? If you talk to any investment residential rehabbers, the space that Ian and I live in, the market hasn't really been affected by anything over the last 60 days. If anything, it's gone the opposite of what would have thought. It's kind of like a seller's market where there's just not a lot of inventory. So sellers list their houses and they sell above market value. But the writings on the wall related to unemployment. We've been in a pretty large upswing market for a long period of time that potentially stuff's going to happen, and the real estate market could soften up. Obviously, interest rates are still really low, so that has a lot to do with it. But if interest rates creep up or start rising, that will be a very, very quick effect to soften the market. How does all of that affect note investing, or the type of note investing that you're doing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, you look at like 39 million unemployed. You look at, past 30 years, household median incomes only increased by like $6,000-$7,000. And you're like, how are people doing it today, where house prices are like 3 times as much as they were 30 years ago, prices of cars, prices of goods and services, how is this all still operating as it needs to? So with that said, I just kind of focus in my own little zone. What I will say is there's going to be a growing divide between the haves and have-nots within the note industry, like never before seen. When I started note investing in 2013, I was a catfish. I was just bottom feeding. There was deals like I would go zig and zag, and there'd be fish food everywhere I was going, picking up notes. They were good notes and bad notes and good notes. And now, right now, it's there's just a further divide between those that are seeing an abundance of deal flow of good quality assets, and those that are kind of struggling for situating their identity, situating deal flow, only looking at kind of retail deals. So furthermore, to answer your question, from the perspective of COVID, from the perspective of unemployment and people's situations turning for the worse, all I can say is you need to have great systems in place for customer service. You need to have relationships with your borrowers. I mean, just like relationships with your tenants, right? You want them to be able to call you if something's wrong. If they're going dark on you, it's because you didn't do your job. So you need to take responsibility. Everything's on you. And the people that have the systems, the people that are responsive to their borrowers, will find that the percentage collected on a monthly basis will be significantly higher than the industry standard at the end of the day. And that's how you're going to survive COVID or any other kind of circumstance.
Nice.
Yeah, that makes 100% sense. I agree. It's the same thing we're doing with our tenants, waiving late fees and, working things out before legal recourse can take place. Man, this has been absolutely awesome. It's almost motivating again to be like, the note industry's over there.
Don't do it, Ian. Don't do it.
No, I got to stay in my lane.
Only by seniors. Only by seniors.
Yeah. Thank God I'm on camera so my business partner can yell at me and say, hey, idiot, stay in your lane. So But no, it's motivating. And, for those that, have stress about thinking about having to have a tenant or flipping a house and finding contractors and doing all this crap, when there's a potential to get involved in notes, and there's another way to be involved in asset, have your money secured by real estate, a very secure investment. It's just it's an interesting way to skin the cat again and again and again. And there's always a million ways to make money, and you proved it today. So
thank you.
Jason, you got anything else?
I don't. Why don't we just leave everybody with how we can get in touch with you? There's a few people you saw that what Pete wrote about that. He also wrote, "Okay, what do you know? Can you mentor me?" So feel free to reach out to some of these guys afterwards, and then also you can post in the comments here. Typically, we get a few thousand people that view these videos after the fact. We usually get a few hundred kind of in real time, and then a few thousand over the next week or two as people are going through Facebook, and this is posted on YouTube and a bunch of other places as well. So feel free to enter your information in the comments, and then I guess before you roll out, how can everybody find you if they want some more additional questions?
I want to spend these last few minutes about you guys. They already know. Go to noteinvestingmadeeasier.com. Join the Facebook group. Look, you're in my Facebook group as well. 2,700 members. They're all awesome. I love most of them. I'd say there's a few, I'd probably do without, but almost all of them I love. So how can they get connected with you guys? So what are you guys about, and how can they get on this podcast, whereby they would be catching all your live streams?
Yeah, man. If you want to reach out, if you want to join us, we're happy to jump out, interview. If you have something valuable to bring in the real estate world, it's Ian at equitywarehouse.com, and it's Jason at hardmoneybankers.com, or you can find us at realestatereservepodcast.com. We're out here. If you want to reach out through Martin to get to us, he knows how to find us. I'm a buy and hold investor, and Jason, you can go ahead and explain about yourself.
Yeah, hard money lender.
Yeah,
hard money lender to real estate investors. Absolutely.
And I've known Ian for 7 years. He's a firefighter in the city of Baltimore. And let me tell you about hustle. You want to know about, like, if you guys come at this like, oh, my 40-hour week cubicle job, I'm so tired at the end, I got to drive home. This guy's fighting fires, day in, day out. And he'd come to some of the RIAs I saw, like, he looked a little roughed up. He looked a little rough, but
yeah, man.
And he'd be pounding it, and he's been pounding it for years. So I got to only imagine Jason's of the same ilk. And so, you guys are the real deal. I appreciate you having me on and connecting.
Well, thank you for the love. We appreciate it. And you guys want to find Martin, I'll leave his information over there, investingmadeeasier.com, or you can find him on his Facebook group. And we appreciate it, man. We look forward to seeing you interviewing Uncle G. We'll be on there to watch it, and we'll plug it again right before you do it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, Martin. Thanks again.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that was great. It's always good to hear different strategies, especially that don't involve owning real estate, because so many investors and so many real estate operators we interview and we talk to, they just assume you got to own real estate unless you're a wholesaler, obviously. Right. But there's lots of different ways to make money as real estate investors. And I think the important part is this is Martin's passion. You can tell by, the way he's communicating. We all have our own passions of the types of deals that we want to be involved in, and the types of deals that we do, and the types of deals that we have experience in. And unless it is a passion, it's going to be hard. It's hard to wake up every morning and continue to grind, unless it's something that you love.
Right. And that's, when he talks about me being at work all night and then getting up and going and doing real estate the next day, it's a passion, man. That's what makes us go. And that's what helps you wake up in the morning and keep it moving. If you have a crappy night, if we were up all night or whatever it may be, that's what keeps you rolling. So, if you were working your 40-hour work week and then you go to do real estate and you're like, screw it, I can wait another day, probably not passionate about it. So either way, man, that's awesome. And the fact that he's interviewing Grant Cardone, I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Just again, like we were talking about Sam Zell the other day, here's Martin, just a regular guy like us reaching out to Grant Cardone, and boom, he's talking to him. You know what I mean? Just like with Sam Zell, and he's like, it's a guy that's worth billions of dollars has the same problems we have. You know, so I thought that's pretty awesome, man. So other than that, man, we've gone a solid hour just talking. It was absolutely awesome. It takes a lot of brain power out of us, so we apologize if we look frazzled afterwards. But it's a lot of information to process to bring good content to you guys. If you want to see any of our old content, you can check out Real Estate Reserve podcast.com. What you got going on for the weekend, man? It's Memorial Day. You taking off, or you vetting deals, or what are you doing?
Well, I just realized that these things last exactly 1 hour because they both died.
There you go.
I was trying to go in and out to charge one while the other one was in, but because I got 2 pairs of these. I got one for my main phone and I got one for my HMB sales line phone. That's but whatever. That we're linked to this. No, nothing. I mean, we were, one of the things I was thinking about, like we always talk about, we should go to the beach or, get a beach house for the summer, and never been able to because kids' activities. And I've talked to so many people about it, and like chances are we're not going to have kids' activities this summer. So this is going to be the perfect time to rent a beach house for like a month. So
Harry,
look at that. I don't know if that's going to happen. That's that's on my 5-year plan.
Harry, if you're on here, Jason's doing it.
I already talked to Terry. Every time I talk, listen to this. Every time I ask Terry Royce advice, it's the craziest thing. And I hope he's freaking listening because it's the god darn truth. He asks me advice, and I give him true advice from experience. I ask him advice, right. He tells me to Google it every damn time. He tells me. I was like, hey man, you got any neighbors or anyone that that is renting a beach house or things like that? And he was like, nah, man, you should just like Google it or go on Airbnb or something like that. I was like, no shit, I've already done that.
Right. Yeah, you're looking for the backdoor deals.
But it's not even that. Every question I ask him, he tells me to go freaking Google it. Every question he asks me, I give him the truth. Like I do research and I help him, or I give him a contact. I say, call this person or do this. He tells me to Google it 100% of the time.
Well, I guess we're Google. Now pay us like we're Google, Terry.
So I don't know. But I was thinking about potentially doing a weekend beach trip since nobody in my family has really left the house. But it's cold and nasty out, and there's more stuff I can do around here, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, maybe you got to come up to Creek House. So, yeah, man, that's what we're doing. We're going to hang out at the Creek House. Hopefully it stops raining and take a few days off. June's right around the corner, and rock and roll, man. Get some big acquisitions coming up here in June and July. So,
you guys do?
Yeah, man. So we got the apartment building and going from there. So it's gonna take a lot of brain power over here over the next couple of weeks. I don't think we've lined up anybody for next week. So if anybody on here is listening, you want to jump on, it's Ian@equitywarehouse.com or Jason@hardmoneybankers.com. Reach out. Love to do it. Oh, Folly Beach, South Carolina. Yeah, that's a nice place. I think isn't that just south of Charleston? I think my brother talks about it. I think he goes down.
Yeah, I've been there. That's nice.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll see. I mean, we're planning a few trips. I mean, our spring break that was supposed to be in April in Florida got pushed back, and we're supposed to go in July. So we'll see.
I'm not gonna lie. I just flew the other day, and it was like being on a private jet. Every person had their own row, minding their own business.
How many people were on that flight? I was going to talk to you about that.
The flight down to Louisiana was 51, and I think the flight coming back was 38.
So was there their own row or just no middle seat?
Well, it was supposed to be no middle seat if they had enough people flying, but I'm telling you, the airports are literally desolate. The interesting thing was when I got to BWI, out of all things, I didn't have to wear a face mask because everybody was 6 feet apart. When you board the plane, you had to wear a face mask, but honestly, once you took off, you were kind of in your own row. The flight attendants don't come around. No drinks, no food service, no nothing. So, but either way, it was pretty chill, and it was not as stressful as I thought it was going to be. Best part, no TSA lines, and pre-check is still available. So it was relatively easy to fly. So I wouldn't be too scared unless you're definitely afraid of the COVID thing or you have a immune issue that you don't want to travel. I could understand. But traveling was not that hard. So it was, I was actually pleasantly surprised.
Got it. Cool.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see you guys next week, probably Tuesday and Friday next week. We'll jump on here. We'll have some new guests and we'll rock and roll.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, man.
All right,
we will see y'all manana.
Or we'll do an Instagram. We're gonna do an Instagram live tomorrow.
All right, let's do it. We'll go on Instagram. Yep.
Instagram live tomorrow, and then sorry about that, and a few other things. Sorry about that. Bye, man. Later.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time,